Trump, in his speech, accused India of slapping a 100% tariff on American cars, which he said is absolutely intolerable, and he vowed to impose reciprocal tariffs on all countries, with India naturally no exception. It reminded me of a video I made a month ago mocking the Bharat Empire's media and economists for their overconfidence, dreaming of becoming a major player in the electric vehicle space with zero-core tech. In the video I cited, a Bharat Empire economist angrily said that the US imposing a 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, and the EU taxing Chinese EVs too, was a golden opportunity for India's auto industry, and Indian companies should quickly fill the gap. I'll put the link to that video in the description below. Friends who are interested can check it out. Back then, that expert fumed. India's EV industry is 5 years behind China. So this once-in-a-lifetime chance slipped away. The female host, visibly shocked, asked, "Is India really that far behind China?" In that video, I brutally mocked the Bharat Empire's ignorance. Forget 5 years. Even 15 years from now, India won't touch China's current EV tech level. Even if the US slaps a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, or even 200%, it's not India's turn to replace China. What EV core tech does the Bharat Empire have? Batteries, motors, control systems, or smart driving systems with their radars, cameras, and components? I reckon the only core part they've mastered is the cow dung engine. In this video, we'll talk about how India's auto industry is doing, and whether, with tech iterating fast and trade protectionism on the rise, it can shoulder the burden of reviving the Bharat Empire. First, the hard data. India is one of the world's top auto-consuming nations, consistently in the top 5. In 2024, India's car sales hit 4.3 million units, close to Japan's 4.8 million, which ranks third. Stats vary slightly depending on the source, but basically, India's auto market size is among the global leaders. No doubt about it. But with a population over 10 times Japan's, and car sales roughly matching Japan's, India's per capita car consumption is still super low. The US, ranking second, sold 16 million cars in 2024, while China, number 1, topped 30 million. Yep, from sales figures, the consumption levels of traditional powerhouses like the US and Japan back up their developed nation status. China's got massive car sales, but per capita, it's still way behind the US, and lower than Japan too. Still, with China's huge high-speed rail network and solid public transit, that gap's understandable, since plenty of places in China are still undeveloped. Second, if we zoom in on EV sales, China's miles ahead. In 2024, China's pure EVs and hybrids sold over 10 million units, far outstripping the combined total of every other country. BYD, in pure EVs, crushed Tesla with a massive sales lead, taking the global top spot. Most of the top 10 EV sellers are Chinese too. India is basically invisible in pure EVs. It doesn't hold a single core tech, and it's way behind on final integration. Every auto show, Bharat Empire netizens gush over Tata's stunning EV prototypes. But honestly, in China's market, those are industrial trash. Specs, design, they're all way behind the times. Third, the auto industry's critical for India. Its huge population keeps driving demand, feeding over 30 million jobs. But India's auto sector isn't just short on core tech. It's stuck with outdated production methods and low automation. Core car parts heavily rely on imports, especially from China. India's sky-high tariffs and hardcore protectionism make it tough for foreign car makers to survive there. Suzuki, Hyundai, and others who've cracked India's unspoken rules, plus local players like Tata, get a cushy greenhouse to grow in. Volkswagen, Ford, and others got hit with huge fines in India. Their growth stumbles, and plenty have bailed on the market for good. And Modi's dream man Musk? He's flaked multiple times, too scared to step in. If India keeps growing its auto industry in this economic bubble, The gap with global leaders will widen, likely turning into a multi-generation lag. Foreign firms just miss out on India's profits, but the cost to Indian society will be astronomical. China's low-end EVs now cost about as much as high-end phones. With Chinese firms rolling out automation and unmanned production fast, cars might really turn into big mobile phones. Fast-moving consumer goods. With battery tech advancing quick and recycling systems improving, when China's swapping cars every 3 or 4 years, Indians might need a decade's savings for one car, then use it for 20. That massive consumption gap could kill India's shot at catching up economically with China or other industrial powers. Fourth, India's auto industry totally missed the EV revolution. China's locked down nearly every key link, from lithium mining to battery making, car production, and infrastructure. Forget India. Even Western countries struggle to rival China in EVs. The US can cling to gas cars, thanks to its rich oil reserves and solid gas car ecosystem. But that means giving up the global market. Other countries don't care about political correctness. They want cheap, practical, feature-packed products. Gas cars can't compete with EVs on cost or features. But the US has Tesla, plus a bunch of up-and-coming EV firms that can, under trade barriers, grab the US market first, then build strength to take on Chinese companies. But India is facing a hopeless reality. It can't build an EV industry without China. Batteries, motors, control systems, smart driving parts. It needs Chinese suppliers for all of it. Every EV India makes puts more cash in Chinese pockets. And Chinese firms won't sell India their best stuff. They'll rank Indian companies dead last in supply priority. European carmakers are now teaming up with China too. They're not likely to back India's EV industry either. Lastly, let's chat about India's situation. Trump's full of contempt for India and Modi. When he met Modi, he announced new tariffs on India. At the press conference, he griped that Indian reporters' English accents were hard to understand. He even had 2 interpreters handle his talks with Modi, straight up mocking Modi's accent. India's refusal to join BRICS in pushing a payment system or de-dollarization didn't win Trump's approval. Instead, Trump saw through Modi, a tough-talking, weak-hearted clown. His humiliation of Modi's no different from how he treats Zelensky. It's just, you've got no cards left. Yeah, the Trump administration might have realized China's never patching things up with India. After Modi's string of anti-China moves, China's government banned any tech transfers to India, barred sales of high-tech goods there. Jaishankar met Wang Yi hoping to mend ties, but Wang brushed him off cold. Trump knows India's economy's fragile. Modi's cow dung GDP, cooked up by tweaking stats. One hold up. If Modi doesn't bend to the US, he'll take a brutal hit. Trump doesn't give a damn about India's possible counter-moves. As long as he can handle China and the EU, every other country's fair game. In a panic, Modi's pinning hopes on the EU. But he seems to forget. The EU's trembling under Trump's threats. Each country's figuring out how to surrender with dignity. If the EU decides to stand firm against the US, its biggest lifeline is China. Only China can help the EU fight a trade war. China and India can't coexist. Who the EU picks? Even a kid could figure that out. Trump's got a point on some stuff. India slaps a 100% tariff on US cars, but doesn't want to pay a price. That's daydreaming. Sanctioning China might mean US inflation worries. Sanctioning India's basically cost-free. Plus, tons of Indian elites flood into the US every year. The cash they send back is a lifeline for Modi to buy advanced weapons and offset deficits. India also scams hundreds of billions from the US yearly via telecom fraud. If Trump cuts all economic ties with India, deports its immigrants, it's not just the auto industry. The whole country's going into shock. Truth is, Modi's worse off than Zelensky. Zelensky, cornered by Trump, could surrender to Russia. Make the EU and the US pay. Modi? He might want to cave to China. But China's fed up with the Bharat Empire. All he's getting back is a slap.